Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know I look kind of ridiculous in my turkey outfit, but this is being recorded right around Thanksgiving. So I do want to say happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. Hopefully you had a great time with family and friends. So today we are talking about crit stacking, and there is some amazing crit stacking things you can do in game. Although my favorite crit stacking build is for a dual wield kind of like swashbuckler thing that we will showcase in today's video, I am going to talk about how you can crit stack for spellcasting and two-handed as well, and of course ranged. With that being said, we are going to take a look at the community wiki because they have a great resource there that kind of help break down the numbers for everyone. Alright, so I am on the wiki now, and you can see here basically on screen all the math here. If you want to calculate it on your own, you can. And this is with the risky ring. Spoiler alert, you will be using this for the build because attacking with advantage just means more chance to crit. So if you take a look, all these minimum values of crit, the lowest I could get it to was 13 with dual wielding. If you attack with advantage, your crit chance is 64%, and if you attack twice, basically looking at 87% chance to crit. And because you are going to be dual wielding, so you get to attack with your main hand choice from extra attack, and then attack with your offhand, you're going to crit a lot. For those that are going to be using two-handers, bows, or spells, your crit range is more so going to be either around 14 or 15, which is still really great. I mean, because you're still looking at a 75% chance to crit on average if you attack twice with extra attack, which is absolutely insane. So it's really, really strong. And I especially like this crit build for Warlocks. Eldritch Blast, because it hits 3 times with advantage and all that other stuff. I mean, it's going to crit a lot, so it's going to be really, really cool. So if you do want to have this as a reference, I will link this down below in the description. That way you can check it out. That way if you don't want to do the math yourself, you don't have to. It's right here on the website. So fantastic job to them. Let's go ahead and get into the build. Alright guys, when it comes to your race, there's going to be a couple of things I do want to point out. If you are planning to play a melee build specifically, and you want to do crit stacking, if you want to enhance your damage even more, you need to go half orc. Their racial is so substantially good for crit builds, it's unreal. So they have orcs, not only do you get relentless endurance, basically a get out of jail free card. Normally if you would get hit and be downed, instead you're at 1 HP, so it basically saves your life. They get dark vision for free, but they get savage attacks. You can read it when you land a critical. With a melee attack, you deal extra weapon dice damage. This is huge because already when you crit, it's going to roll extra dice. This will add on top of that, which is really, really powerful. So for those that want like a crit heavy barbarian build for two-handers, it's very fitting. Whether you're dual wielding or whatever melee weapon you use, half orc for sure is the way to go. When it comes to any other crit stacking, whether you're going to be using your ranged weapon or spells, race does not matter. Pick whatever you want. You can see the origin character here, Dark Urge. The reason I have this selected, minor spoiler, at the end of the game, there is a specific buff you can do if you choose to go down a dark path. I'm not going to spoil what that dark path is, but it will give you even more crit stacking towards the end of the game, basically making it to where you can have almost 80% chance to crit. It's absolutely insane. That being said, pick what you want, but I do think half orcs are for sure the best. Before we break down the different builds, I do want to point out when it comes to gear, for the most part, you will be using the same things. So let's start out with all gear universally. Everybody will be using the risky ring. This has advantage on attack rolls at all times. Having advantage is amazing because this makes you roll 2 dice, so your chance to crit goes up substantially. But it does have the negative side of having disadvantage on saving throws. Another bonus, if you do multi-class with Rogue, which for this specific build we will be doing, it allows on-demand sneak attack damage too. The Deadshot Bow. You get this pretty much as soon as you get to Act 3 from the vendor. The number you need to roll a crit is reduced by 1. This is great because it stacks, even if you don't plan to use ranged weapons. Just having this is even more crit. Read this as basically having, hey, another 5% chance to crit. Nice. Your helm. Once you get Cerevox Helmet Act 3, this is great. It's another 5% chance to crit regardless. Really fantastic. Before you get to this, I would recommend the Dark Justiciar's Helmet. This gives you +1 to saving throws against spells, which is nice. but it also gives you covert critical while obscured, meaning you are basically hidden or hiding. The number you need to roll critical is reduced by 1, and it can stack, so another 5% chance to crit there. You could also use the covert cal that you get underneath Last Lights In. Does basically the same thing, but this helmet here, the Dark Justiciar's helmet, is just a better version of it. When it comes to cloaks, the Shade Slayer cloak that you can get in Act 3, this one is very similar to the other helm. This one is while you are obscured, basically hiding like in shadows, you could say. This one is when you're actually using the hiding action, and because we will be multi-classing with Rogue, it means the actual hide button. So while you're hiding, another chance to crit, another 5% chance, really, really nice. When it comes to weapons, now this is when things are going to be a little different here, because depending on your weapons, it's going to be different. So for dual wielder specifically, if you want the most crit, you would need to use the Bloodthirst in your offhand, because this increases your chance to crit by 5%. Very nice. Also gives you the ability to increase your AC by +1, which is another really nice bonus to have. You also have offhand only True Strike Riposte. When the creature misses you, you automatically retaliate and gain True Strike on the enemy, which is nice to have. The retaliation though is nice because it's just free damage. But you get this weapon super late, depending on what you do in Act 3, so most people aren't going to be really using this in their builds until the end game. That's where the Knife of the Undermountain King comes in. This thing is really, really good. So this A will reduce your number to crit again. So like this is another 5% chance to crit. And I know it's worded a little weird, but I did numbers testing and it is confirmed to actually stack with other things. Really, really nice. You also have Shadow Blade, so you have advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets, which is really great. So if you don't want to use the Risky Ring, you don't necessarily need to. There is a glitch that I'm not going to show because I don't like promoting glitches, but you can duplicate items in this game, specifically in Act 2 with certain trials and char. So if you wanted to dual wield Knives of the Undermountain King, you can. So those are all the gear pieces I'm going to say you pretty much need to have for the build. Of course, if you go the two-handed version, use whatever two-hander you want. Unfortunately, there are no two-handers that reduce your crit chance. And when it comes to spell casting, you will need to spell Sniper Feet. And there is a specific spellcaster hybrid that goes Warlock in the champion combination. That is one of my favorite builds in the game, and it's very, very powerful. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other things I would recommend though. So for my necklace, I like having the Surgeon's Amulet here. This is nice, even though it's once per long rest. Whenever you score a critical on a humanoid, you can paralyze them for 2 turns. Fantastic for CC, and it's a nice way to have your allies get 100% chance to crit against targets. If you do not want to use this, I would say use whatever necklace you want. This is just the one I like having because it synergizes really well with crit. My chest piece here is the Dark Justiciar's half plate, and I know I showcased this in other videos before, but this thing is just super powerful. While obscured, you have advantage on stealth checks, which is nice because you are going to want to go stealth for the Shade Slayer cloak as well. So this is just awesome and gives you advantage on Constitution saving throws as well. Once you get to Act 3, if you are an evil playthrough, the Ballast Armor allowing you to do double damage against enemies to piercing. Just really great for burst damage. It's super powerful. Of course, if you don't want to use that, if you're a barbarian, the Bone Spike Garb, very, very powerful. If you're planning to use plate, use whatever plate you want. It's really going to be up to you, but those are my recommendations for a few things here. And of course, in Act 1, if you do want some gear for Act 1, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Spider Silk Armor. Having advantage on Constitution saving throws is never a bad thing, but you also get +1 bonus to self checks as well, which will help out if you want to use this to stack with the helmet or the cape as well. Gloves, I like the Bone Spike gloves for the most part, just because it makes my attacks ignore resistance. So if I know I'm fighting something that is going to be resistant to the type of damage I'm going to be doing physically, this is a really nice set of gloves to have. You can get this in Act 3. However, if you don't want to use these, I really like the legacy of the masters. +2 to my attack and damage rolls of weapons is also really nice. However, you can use whatever pair of gloves you like. You don't necessarily need to use those two. Any other set of gloves could work really well. Boots, I'm a big fan of the Nightwalkers. These are some of the best boots in the game. Free Misty Step, can't be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared, and you can't slip on grease or ice. Very powerful. However, if you don't want to use those, another really good set of boots right here, the evasive shoes, if you want extra AC, very powerful. Boots of Persistence, giving you freedom of movement and long strider, also really good. For a barbarian, having the bone spike boots themselves, really nice. It's going to be up to you on pretty much what you want to use here for your boots. My second ring, I went with the Eversight ring just to have it. I mean, because a lot of the crit stacking gear does require you to be obscured. Having immunity be being blinded is nice. That way, if you have an ally that can cast darkness, that will definitely benefit you greatly. So this is another solid weapon, or not weapon, but ring to have. Other than that, the other gear is going to be up to you. But for the most part, you're going to bonus stack crit, so you want all the crit stacking pieces. There is a potion I do want to point out. There is also a potion you can buy called the Elixir of Viciousness that you can actually buy from the vendor in Act 2 near the mountain pass. You can also create it using items you find inside the Shadowlands, and this will give you another 5% chance to crit, and it lasts until your next long rest. And for those who do want to see a custom character, in case you didn't want to play the Dark Urge and how I would build it, this is the way I'm going. So my race for me, for the dual wield spec, is going to be obviously the half orc. We're starting out as a fighter. The reason we start out as a fighter is because you get Constitution saving throw proficiency, which is really nice, especially if you do have any spells from equipment that give you concentration. It's going to definitely help out. You have your fighting style here, your 2-weapon fighting style right from the very start of the game. That way, if you want to dual wield, pretty much as soon as you get out of the tutorial ship, you certainly can. You just need to find the weapons for it. My background, I chose criminal here. This will give you stealth proficiency. This isn't exactly needed because later on you will multi-class to give you a lot of stealth anyway. But there are some pieces of gear in Act 2 and 3 that give you crit bonuses if you're hiding. So this is certainly really nice to have extra stealth in. My ability score is here. The reason dexterity is 17. That way if you do want to utilize the hags here, you certainly can. I'm not going to, and I won't for any build. The two-hander, ranged, as well as spellcasting, none of those are going to use Hag's Hair, but if you do want to use it, you certainly can. So my Constitution 16, my dual wield build is a frontliner, so this is the way I like going. I like having extra HP in order to survive. Intelligence is 10, Wisdom 14, because I want a little bit of extra saving throws when it comes to helping out for spells that enemies use, like Hold Person and things like that, and it helps out Perception as well. This guy is not going to be the face of the party whatsoever, so I don't need Charisma. My skill proficiencies here, Perception, one of my go-to defaults always, and then I like having my Acrobatics. You don't need Acrobatics, pick whatever you want. When it comes to the range build, this is also the same exact stat spread you would pick if you want to do a ranged crit build as well. We'll talk about two-handers and spellcasting later on in the video. Okay, when it comes to leveling, you're going to have some choices to make. Do you want to go down and get extra attack right away, or would you rather go thief and get your extra offhand attack right away? The choice for you is really by preference. To make this video easier to understand, I'm just going to level 1 to 5 as fighter first, then go rogue and kind of go from there. So at level 2, you get your action surge, fantastic. Level 3, this is when you get to choose your champion. Technically, you don't need to go champion for crit stacking. You could easily go battle master if you did want the superiority dice to have some really cool extra things you can do in combat. But champion if you just want raw crit, because this does stack with everything else we talked about gearing wise. So fighter level 4, you get your first feat here, and this is when we're going ability improvement. If you use the Hag's Hair, you'll be at 20 dexterity. I'm not using the Hag's Hair for this build, so instead I want to go with something else. So you have a couple options you can choose if you want to get your dexterity another +1 while also increasing something cool. My choice here is going to be athlete here. I like this because this will increase my dexterity by +1, and it gives me another 50% chance to jump, which is really powerful. So that's what I'm going with. Because my strength is low, having the increased jump distance is really nice. So fighter level 5, you get extra attack, so you can attack twice with your main hand weapon. Now, I could either go fighter level 6 now, or I could start going into multi-classing with rogue to get my thief levels. It's going to be up to you preference-wise how you level and whether you want your feat now or feat later. If you want to be a little bit more powerful when it comes to your main hand attacks and a little bit with your offhand, since you did choose a dual wielder feat here, or dual wielder fighting style, you might as well take the feat. So that's what I'm doing. Let's go ability improvement and just get the dexterity maxed out. Alright, so fighter level 7, this is when you get even more things. Increases your jump distance again, which is really nice because this will stack with that bonus we had from athlete. And you get remarkable athlete proficiency. It's a way to just increase your proficiency bonuses to any strength, dex, or constitution checks you normally wouldn't be proficient in. And this is going to be really nice, but we don't need this now. Instead, we are going down the rogue tree here. So now this is when you can change your things here. You want more sleight of hand, so do you want this guy to be really like sneaky and steal? Getting +11 of that is pretty huge. Do you want some more stealth? I personally am going to say screw persuasion because we don't need all that stuff. This guy is not going to be the face of the party. Because some gear does require you to hide during combat, I think going stealth right here is very powerful. So that's what I'm choosing there. My other option, I could go perception, intimidation, history. It's going to be up to you. If you'd prefer this character to have sleight of hand over stealth, you can certainly do that. This character for me isn't going to steal all that much, so instead I'm going with perception. That way I can see my environment just a little bit better. So with rogue level 2, this is when you get your other cool things like hide, dash, disengage, and because you will have 2 bonus actions soon, you can do all that and still attack with your offhand as well. Alright, rogue level 3, obviously we're going thief. We want the extra bonus action so we can attack twice with our offhand. Really powerful. So with this, you can now attack twice with your main hand and attack twice with your offhand, use action surge, and attack twice with your main hand again. Alright, so rogue level 4, you get a feat. Now this is when things become really fun. If you are a bow user and you want sharpshooter, you can certainly do that and get sharpshooter now, but obviously if that was the case, you would have chose archery as your fighting style earlier. If you were using a two-handed weapon, obviously you would be going with a finesse two-hander, in my opinion, which there are quite a few. If that's the case, you would choose Great Weapon Master. That way you can get extra damage with two-handed weapons. I personally, at this point, either say go ability improvement. That way you can get your constitution or wisdom up a little bit higher. You could go savage attacker. This is going to be really nice to help reroll your melee dice. It does not affect sneak attack damage, but does affect your actual melee attacks themselves. Because you are going to be attacking quite often with melee, especially since you're dual wielding, this is pretty useful. Really though, all these extra feats that you're going to have for this build, it's really going to be up to you on what you want. If you don't care about using the weapons I showcased earlier, going dual wielder is going to be really nice because this means you can now dual wield rapiers, and they do have a higher hit dice compared to the other weapons that we talked about. Lucky is also another really powerful thing you could have here. Pick whatever you want for this third feat. It's going to be up to you and what you think is going to be best for your character. Don't forget Spell Sniper. If you did want to have extra crit with spell casting, this will affect spells, and this does stack with all the other crit stuff, and I will talk about the Warlock build a little bit later in the video. For me personally though, because this guy is going to be a melee-esque character, I'm going Savage Attacker. Rogue level 5, now you have a choice. Do you want to go 2 points into Fighter to get another feat? Or do you want extra sneak attack damage and to get Uncanny Dodge, which allows you to take half damage when attack would normally hit you once per turn? I'm going Uncanny Dodge. I think this with the extra sneak attack damage is definitely better than having another feat because I don't think I need another feat with this build. And then I am now, instead of going Rogue level 6, we're going Fighter level 7. Now when it comes to combat, I'm not even going to use the Ballast Armor, mainly because not everyone's going to be doing an evil playthrough or want to actually go down this path. So I'm going to leave the Dark Justiciar's half plate on, but just remember, if you do have the Ballast Armor on, all the damage you would be doing, it's going to be doubled because it'll be vulnerable to that damage type. And I am going to be using the Legacy of the Masters instead of the Bone Spike gloves here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and come up behind this guy. I'm going to enter turn-based mode just so everything gets reset, and I'm going to open up with my sneak attack damage on him. And you can see I crit him for a lot. So now I'm going to use my Paralyzed Critical from my neck piece here. They are all surprised, so they get to lose their turn. Now this guy here, he is paralyzed. So what this means is a couple of things, and it's from my necklace. So for 2 turns, he can't take any actions, bonus actions, or reactions because he's considered incapacitated. And all my attacks will be criticals if I'm within 10 feet of him, which is pretty dang powerful. So for me, my offhand dagger doesn't do much damage. As you can see, it's 1d4 plus 7 plus the extra 2 from my gloves. But because it is a dagger, I do get the extra crit and AC, which is why I like using this because of the special effect. So you may not necessarily want to use this itself when it comes to damage, but it does stack up a lot. So I'm going to toggle my dual wield off here so I don't force my offhand attack to use it. I'm just going to attack my offhand. You can see it only did 17 damage with a critical. Seems a little low, right? We'll take a look at the damage. You can see you have the damage roll here, 2d4 piercing, plus my dexterity modifier. Not bad, right? Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to use my next bonus action to go ahead and hide. That way I can get the extra crit chance from my cloak, and we're going to sneak attack on her in front of us. You can see I did a crit of 46. Take a look at the damage. You can see the damage right there, everything that goes into it. So now let's go ahead and just finish her off with another attack. And that one's substantially less because I didn't have the sneak attack with it. So I could action surge, but there's really no point. I'm just going to stay here and wait. Alright, so to start my turn, I'm going to use one of my bonus actions to hide again, just like before. And hiding successful, which is nice because I'm in shade, so the bonus here does count, which is going to be really nice. And because I'm hiding, I do get the extra crit. So let's come up behind this guy, and let's hit him with our big time sneak attack damage. So that one did not crit, a little unfortunate. And it took me out of my hide spot. Let's attack again. And then I'll use my offhand. I'm going to use action surge here, and I want to kill him. Alright, so he's dead. I have one more turn. Who can I hit from here? I can hit him, so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to go with Piercing Strike. Piercing Strike's nice because that makes him take extra damage from attacks. Now that he has that on him, you can see all my attacks will do additional piercing damage. And remember, if you were using the Ballast armor, all the damage numbers you see would be doubled. Dang, they are just whooping my ass right now. I guess I should have used the spell that comes with my armor. It does come with armor, Shar's Aegis, which will just give me extra AC. You can use it once per long rest. It is a concentration. Definitely could have used that here because it definitely would have helped out. Because I do want to showcase the riposte ability. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not actually going to hide. I'm just going to attack this guy and kill him. I thought I was going to kill him. There we go. And now we'll attack this guy. And I'll end my turn. So he missed, and because he missed, I get to attack him with a main hand weapon and basically kill him. And I know what you're thinking. If I already have the legendary dagger in my offhand, how come I'm not using the legendary short sword in my main hand? And you definitely can. My damage would be substantially higher if I did use this weapon. Very, very powerful. And you really should. You should be replacing the Knife of the Under Mountain King with the Crimson Mischief. It's just way better. You would be doing tons more damage. So I'll showcase why. So I did that just to showcase me switching weapons real quick. I can only attack with my offhand, which is fine. We'll just flourish and then end my turn. Alright, so the reason you would want to use this over the other weapon I have, even though my crit chance does go down, this gives you Prey Upon the Weak, additional 1d4 piercing against targets with less than 50% HP, and whenever you have advantage, you do an additional 7 piercing. So now when I attack this guy, I'm going to do even more damage. As you can see, he just got utterly destroyed. But this weapon, these two weapons come pretty late in the game, so you may not necessarily need this for your entire playthrough. So I did want to showcase some of the damage you can expect realistically throughout majority of your playthrough with this dual wield spec. But that's basically combat with this dual wield spec here. I wish there were some rapiers that you could dual wield that have crit. Unfortunately, the legendary rapier that you get in Act 3, the crit only counts if you use it by itself. You can't have a weapon in your offhand. So let's take a look now at what happens if you want to crit with bows, and then we will talk about some of the other stuff. Now, when it comes to my bow spec, it is almost identical to the dual wield one, except you are now choosing archery up top here. And instead of choosing Savage Attacker for your feet, you will be choosing Sharpshooter instead. Everything else is exactly the same as the dual wielder. Now for the Sharpshooter build with the bow, everything is exactly the same. The only difference with this is you're just using a bow, and you do have the option to still attack with your main hand weapon. If you want to lose less crit and gain extra AC, you can easily put on a shield. That's going to be up to you. I'm going to go ahead and open up with my sneak attack range, and you can see the amount of damage I do is going to be really high here. So I am going to make her be paralyzed. Enemy surprise, so I get to go ahead and attack. And because this is a longbow and not dual wielding any type of light crossbows, I do have 2 bonus actions here, which is great because what I can end up doing now on my turn specifically, I could end up using my hide action. Hide, that way I get the extra crit from my cape here. And because I'm in shade, I get the extra advantage on hide checks from here. And if I was using the other helmet, it's nice because if they or obscured. It says like, well, obscured, the number you need to crit is increased or reduced. It's increasing your crit by 5%. Because I'm obscured and hiding now, I get even more crit as well if I did have that helm instead of the other helm I have now. So let's go ahead and attack again. She's paralyzed, so I don't need to do anything with that. Let's attack this guy here. So hit him. I'm going to use my bonus action now to hide again. And now let's go ahead, attack and kill. All right, so they're dead. So now I'm going to go ahead and run over here. So another trick you can do though, if you don't want to attack or hide, attack, if you want to save your hide till the very end, you certainly can. So for me, I don't like this guy. I'm going to use my sneak attack on him. I didn't crit that time, but that's okay. So what I'm going to end up doing now for my bonus action here, I'm going to go ahead and hide again. Hiding successful. Let's attack, finish him off. He's gone. So now I have one more bonus action here I can do and hide. But instead of staying here, I'm going to go ahead and move. So hopefully they'll go where I was hiding and end my turn. And you can see that's exactly what's happening. I'm still hidden and they're trying to find me. So they did use detect presence, but they don't see me because I'm hiding and I'm not even in combat anymore. So I could enter turn-based mode again and finish him off. So that's just a fun little trick I like doing if you want to stay stealthy. You could easily solo the game that way. It's just something I really like doing. Now, could I be doing more damage? Yeah, I definitely could be. You could easily optimize for a little more damage if you use a little bit of different gear setup. If I had the Drake Throat Glaive added on top of this for even more damage. Drake Throat Glaive trick, for those who don't know, if you equip the weapon, you can add +1 to the weapon and then add another 1d4 to the weapon as well when it comes to any type of like elemental damage. Really powerful, but in my opinion, not everyone's going to be doing that. I had a comment in one of my previous videos where someone said it feels a little cheap, and in some ways it does, but it is an in-game mechanic, so I don't think it's cheating. So if you do want more damage, use the Drake Throat Glaive trick. But link description below showcases how to get it and how to basically work it out. So what about two-handers then? Well, my two-hander build is actually going to be a little different than what you saw here. We are going to be going 9 points Barbarian, 3 points Fighter. The reason for that is we want maximum damage, baby, because that is when you get improved critical that stacks with Savage Attack. Really, really strong. However, if you didn't want to go Barbarian and you just wanted to be a fighter, you certainly can, because then you can use weapons like the Dancing Breeze that are finesse, also a glaive, which is really powerful, and you can have this, which is great, with sneak attack damage if you wanted, which is really, really cool. I'm not even going to bother to showcase it because I think it's pretty self-explanatory how to do that. I am going to showcase, though, a really fun melee spell hybrid that I think you guys are going to enjoy. Alright, and for the melee / caster hybrid, I think the best version of this is going to be a split with Warlock and Fighter. Obviously, if you want to go just a straight two-handed build, you would go points into Fighter and then put 1 point into Warlock, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But for this specifically, I do want Pact of the Blade here. We're going to start as a Fighter though, with Great Weapon Fighting. This is the ability score I'm going with. And I'm going to actually be using heavy armor now. When it comes to your skill proficiencies, pick whatever you want. The reason we want Charisma though is because with Pact of the Blade, this is going to make our two-hander actually do damage based on Charisma, which is pretty damn cool. So fighting style, great weapon fighting, ability score, this is what I'm going with. If you want more dex, feel free, but I don't think it's really all that needed. Alright, so instead of leveling up fighter right away, we're going to be going Warlock here. Cantrip, Eldritch Blast is all you want. Anything else is utility. Subclass is not going to be the Fiend, but instead the Great Old One. The reason for this is because you get Mortal Reminder. When you land a critical hit, the creature has to make a Wisdom saving throw, or they become frightened. This is nice because it also reads and nearby enemies, so this will affect the main target and nearby enemies when you crit, which is really cool. Spell wise here, I like going with Tasha's Hideous Laughter. It's a great CC spell, and the other spells are going to be up to you. If you want a little bit more HP, armor's pretty nice, or you can use Arms of Hadar. I go with armor mainly because I don't use Hex all that much with this build, because with Great Weapon Fighter, when you actually crit or kill someone, you can use your bonus action to attack again. So leveling up here, spell wise, pick whatever you want. Hellish Rebuke is nice for a rebuttal to do as a reaction to attack enemies, but reminder, Warlocks have limited spell slots, so be careful with what you use. We're going with Agonizing Blast here for extra damage based on our Charisma modifier to our Eldritch Blast, and we are going to be going with Repelling Blast. That way, if we wanted to knock people back, we can. Spell wise here, pick what you think is going to be useful. Hex is pretty useful if you do want extra damage. You can use it if you want. I'm not going to though. I'm going Darkness, Pact of the Blade. Now normally in D&D, Pact of the Blade does not stack with extra attack from martial classes. It looks like they're not going to be patching this out, so I guess it's intended. I personally don't think it should be though, because it makes no sense. But it does. So you can get 3 attacks with Pact of the Blade when stacking with any martial class. Of course, you could also go 11 points fighter and 1 point warlock, and to get the fear on crit that we talked about earlier. It's going to be up to you. All right, so here we go. Level 5. This is when things get really fun. So you're level 5, warlock level 4. Cantrip, pick whatever you want. Spell wise, again, pick whatever you want here. I'm gonna go with my Misstep. And then feat wise, you could go ability improvement now if you had the hags here to get your charisma maxed, or you can go performer. Performer's cool because this will give you +1 to charisma and give you musical instrument proficiency. So now you're essentially a bard if you wanted to play instruments too. Warlock level 5 is when you stop leveling Warlock. You get your final spell here. Counter spell can be very, very useful, but with your limited spell slots, you don't get that much chance to use it. So instead, I'm going to go with Hunger of Hadar instead. Invocations, we're going to go with Devil's Sight. This is really, really strong. You are now immune to darkness instead of only having dark vision. So magical darkness, like the darkness spell, will not affect you, but it will affect others. Now we're going to go back to fighter and go all the way down to level 7. We want champion because we want that extra crit. New feat, ability improvement, get that up there. Fighter level 5, extra attack, which for whatever reason does stack with Pact of the Blade. You get your 3rd feat here. Now we're going with Great Weapon Master or Spell Sniper. So if you plan to use this character basically attacking with your cantrips a lot more, Spell Sniper is going to be really powerful, and it is really, really fun to do. But I like more so being up close and personal and using Eldritch Blast only when needed. So instead, I personally with this building be going Great Weapon Master. And you get your finer fighter level. Fantastic. Alright, let's go see this baby in combat. And gear-wise for the Warlock / two-handed hybrid, and of course you don't have to use a two-hander, you can easily go sword and board if you wanted. I use the Armor of Persistence when you get to Act 3. Literally the best chest piece in the game. Gives you resistance and blade ward. You are super tanky as this build. You have disadvantage on stealth checks, so your cape you are now going to replace. We can go with Cloak of Displacement, really powerful. Flesh Melter's Cloak, whenever you actually get melee damage, you do acid damage back. Also really strong. Mantle of the Holy Warrior, if you want a Crusader's Mantle in order to do extra holy damage. Cloak of Protection, extra AC and saving throws. Pick what you want here, it's going to be up to you. Because you are so dang tanky with this build, you have a decent amount of HP and everything else. I'm actually going to go with the Flesh Melter's Cloak. That way, if I do get hit, I'm going to do damage back to the enemy. When it comes to my neck piece, I'm still keeping the same neck piece. I'm keeping the same risky ring. However, I am now not using the Eversight ring. Instead, I'm going to use any other ring that I want to make this video shorter because it's already as long as it is now. I'm just going to go with the Caustic Band, but feel free to pick whatever else you want. Alright, with that being said, my weapon here is going to be the Halberd of Vigilance. This thing is great because it gives you +1 to your initiative rolls and you have advantage on perception ability checks, which is pretty damn cool. You also have opportunity attacks. When you have them, you get to do it with advantage, which is cool. And then weapon-wise, we are doing the Halberd of Vigilance, one of the best weapons in the game. You get this really early inside Act 2 at Moonrise Towers. Fantastic weapon, +2 weapon enchant, +1 D4 force. Really strong. It's a halberd, so it has the extra reach. You get +1 bonus to initiative rolls, advantage on perception ability checks. It's just an all-around great weapon, and if you use a Drakethroat's Glaive on it, even better. If you prefer to have more of a self-sustained build, the Sword of Chaos in Act 3, also really powerful. Alright, with that being said, let's go ahead and open up on these guys. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look. Take a look at my weapon though. If I go to attack, it doesn't seem that strong, right? There's no modifier, really, because I have no strength. That's because I need to make my weapon bound to me. So I do this, and now you can see my damage goes up a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of damage. Now, if you take a look at my passives, I do have my Repelling Blast and Great Master all in. I'm going to go ahead and use my armor just because. And this is great. So now when enemies hit me with melee damage, they take cold damage. And they'll take acid damage as well from my cape, which is pretty dang cool. I could open by shooting out my Eldritch Blast and knocking some people back. You can see I attack with advantage, so I get a good amount of damage in. But I don't think it's going to be really needed right now. I could open up with Darkness if I wanted, but I only have one more spell slot here, which does recharge on the short rest. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go ahead and just open up on them. I'm going to go ahead and put it in turn-based mode. I'm going to run up, take a look at my passives here. I have Great Weapon Master all in, so my chance to hit's a little low, but when I attack, I still have an 88% chance to hit regardless, so let's open up on her. And you can see I missed even with the 88% chance. A little unfortunate. Alright, so on my turn, one thing I could do, I could use Hunger of Hadar and really just mess everybody up. I could use my Darkness. I'm going to go Darkness just to showcase how powerful this is. I have Devil's Sight, so no one's going to be able to really hit me all that much. The guy that shoots with a bow won't be able to hit me while I'm inside my Darkness, which is cool, but I can attack and see all them. Let's go ahead and try to hit you again. And if I have to, I will take Great or Great Weapon Master all in off. Let's go ahead and hit both of them now. And you can see I did crit that guy. Let's do a paralyzed critical. So he's now paralyzed. Because I did crit, I get my bonus action, so I can now attack him again. And it's a guaranteed crit with a 100% chance to hit now. And he's gone. Fantastic. That one did a little bit more. I think that one did 40. Yep, 40. Which is really nice. And you can see with my savage attacks, I've rolled the dice again. That's why orcs with two-handed weapons like this are really strong. Because it does savage attacks, it rolls another weapon dice. Because it's 1d10 weapon, it does another d10 added to the damage when it rolls, which is pretty cool. Now, I'm going to go ahead and attack again. I don't like her. Let's use my action surge here and attack. You can see she is frightened, which is cool, and she got frightened because of me being the special subclass with the Warlock. He's frightened as well. They're not though because they weren't close enough. The frightened debuff, if you read, they have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and they can't move, so they can't even attack me if they wanted. So instead, I'm going to come up here and attack these guys. And I'm going to hit him. He's bleeding, which is nice because he's bleeding. You can see he will take extra damage on his next turn. He's also frightened because I crit. So he also, if I can move, won't be able to attack me, but I can't because I ran out of movement. So I'm just going to end my turn. You can see he did damage because he hit me. I did damage to him back. This guy can't hit me at all because of the darkness. Now it's my turn. So if you did want to knock all these guys back, you certainly can. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and hit her. She's really low. So this will basically kill her. And then we'll knock him back some. And you can see I crit. I missed him twice with the other spells, which is a little unfortunate, but she got rocked. And that was one hit. So if I did all three on her, it would have did way more damage. So for my Misty Step here, I could use that if I wanted. I don't really need to. I don't need to heal. I don't really need to do anything. I'm just going to end my turn. And this guy, he's just taking damage from attacking me. And that's basically how this build works. I mean, you just attack like you normally would. Let's go ahead and get all three attacks in though, so I can show you how it stacks. So, one on this guy. He's gone. One on this guy. Gone. Let's come over here. One on this guy. Gone. And if I had extra movement, which I do because of extra reach, I can hit him and get 4 attacks in 1 turn, which is pretty damn cool. And that's basically how you play the Warlock crit hybrid build. I'm not sure what to really call it. It's just a really fun build because you do get the 3 attacks, Eldritch Blast, and all that fun stuff. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely comment down below. Let me know what other kind of things you want to see. The next video coming up will most likely be my ranking of unique items in-game with in-game footage to talk about it as well. Look forward to that. Let me know about any more requests. I'm Ronan. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you did, you're awesome. See you next time. Bye-bye.